Hi everyone, welcome back to our philosophy of happiness class. So this week we'll work on subject dependence theories and we'll address friendship and disability, two very important topics within philosophy of well-being and happiness. So subject dependence theory is the last theory of well-being we'll cover in this class. And there will be a mini lecture on that. And in terms of friendship, I originally planned for us to read Aristotle and Montaigne and their philosophies on friendship. But then I realized that at this point of this class and at this point of the whole summer, I just didn't want the workload to be too crazy. So I only link online resources that talk about Aristotle and Montaigne and this concept of friendship and well-being. So I wouldn't do a lecture on this because I wanted to make the reading supplementary and I wanted you to focus on the reading subject dependence and disability. And then there will be another lecture on disability and well-being. It will be mainly focused on the paper by Carroll and about the phenomenology of disability and health. Although it talks more about disability, I think it gives a lot of suggestions and implications for how we should think about health and how it's related to well-being in general as well. And I think it really encourages and forces us to look back at some of the theories we've covered and ask ourselves more questions. So let's get started with subject dependence theories. So subject dependence theories address the central notion of a theory being subject relative. So subject dependence theories are subject relative. So what is subject relative? So subject relative theories argue that well-being has to do with how people's lives are going for them, rather than with how their lives are going from the moral point of view. So in other words, well-being has something to do with the person themselves. It's about the person themselves. It's not necessarily about how those people's lives look like from a normative point of view, from a third person's point of view related to moral standards and moral judgments. So there is this strong sense of well-being has to do with those subjects, those individuals. It's about those subjects and those individuals. So there are two types of subject dependence theories. So the first is rational fit theory of well-being. So it talks about the fact, so it emphasizes on the fact that we have basic physical and psychological makeup, and we have those bundle of features we each possess, and those specific makeup we have, and those features, those bundles of features we possess, lead to opportunities and limits regarding our well-being, regarding how we can develop and what kind of things we can do. And rational fit theories argue that things can offer prudential value only if they fit or suit us according to these features. So we have to be realistic about who we are, and we have to be aware of those features and limits we have, and things are only good for us if they are suitable for us according to those features and limits. And they give us a lot of good things if things do fit or suit us in this way. So they would give us pleasure, they would have inherent value, and they would feature significantly into our self-conception and self-understanding and help us form this positive, beneficial self-understanding, help us develop if those things do fit or suit us in terms of our basic makeup and bundle of features we possess as humans. So as you can see, it emphasizes a lot on this notion of fate and suitability, and it focuses a lot on this idea that humans have certain makeups, features, and limitations that we have to appeal to them, we have to realize them, we have to be aware of them, and we have to be realistic about them. Another type of subject dependence theory is called the rational care theory. It argues that if something is good for you, it has to be, so if something is good for you, a person who cares about you has to want this thing for your sake. So rational care theory then focuses a lot on this idea of care and the relationship between people. And then this is closely related to the ethics of care ethics, if some of you have heard about this. So it argues and emphasizes on the fact that humans have a lot of humans are intimately connected to each other, and we are impacted a lot by the relationship we have, and how we are interrelated to each other transform and impact how we live. And when we care about someone, what we think and want, there are important implications in that. When people care about us, what they think about and the intuitions they have, and the experience they have, that matters. So it emphasizes on such ideas. So we've talked about subjective and objective theories and made distinctions between them. But here is another very important distinction to make. That is, we have to realize subjective theories and subject-dependent theories are different. It's two terms. So how are they different? So as we've said, subject-dependent theories argue that a person's well-being has to have something to do with how their lives are going for them. In other words, it has to be about the subjects themselves. It has to have something to do with the persons themselves. And appealing to the subjective feelings or experiences or affective states of the subject is one way to make the well-being theory dependent on subjects. However, you can of course make your well-being theory have something to do with how the lives are going for the subjects. You can of course have a well-being theory that's in some way about the subjects themselves without appealing to subjective theories, without appealing to their subjective states. So subjective states and feelings and experiences is only one way, or is only one aspect the subjects have, right? But if you appealed to other aspects of those subjects and make your well-being theory dependent on those aspects, on those other aspects other than subjective aspects, you can of course make your theory subject dependent, but it's not quite a subjective theory. So you can of course do this. Subject dependent theories is a more general umbrella term, and subject theory is only one subcategory falling under this broad category of subject dependent. You can have theories that are subject dependent without them being subjective. So that's the distinction here. So there are different types of subject dependence theories as well. So the first is attitudinal theories. So we can also call them value fulfillment theories. So I'll talk about 3 different attitudinal theories. So the first one is by Sumner. I would say Sumner. I'm not sure how to pronounce their name, but Sumner argues that well-being consists in authentic happiness. So firstly, what does Sumner mean by happiness? So happiness is a subjective response to one's condition of life. So it's a subjective theory. And to Sumner, happiness has 2 aspects, cognitive aspect and affective aspect. So the cognitive aspect involves a positive evaluation of the conditions of your life. So it's about a judgment. And then there is also an affective aspect where one person also has to have a sense of well-being and feel happy about certain things. So judgments only constitute of happiness when they are accompanied by positive feelings, such as feelings of fulfillment or satisfaction. So there has to be this affective feeling of well-being, this affective feeling of feeling happy and joy. So both aspects have to be present at the same time for something to count as authentic happiness. There are additional requirements for authentic happiness as well. So firstly, the endorsement of life must not be based on mistaken perceptions. So the perceptions has to be genuine and not deceived or delusional. And secondly, the evaluation must be autonomous. So the values and concerns that inform our assessments of our lives have to be our own. So I'll give 2 examples for these. So if my happiness, so if I thought I won a competition, a world competition of playing the piano, but it's only a prank, that I didn't actually win that. So the happiness I formed regarding the winning the competition would be would be based on mistaken perceptions, because the perception of my actual result of the competition was wrong. It wasn't genuine. It was deceived. And or think about maybe my parents think that being a doctor is the best job in the world, but I like music a lot, and I personally value the career of being a musician over any other jobs, and I think that is what can give me most happiness, and that's what was most valuable in my life. And maybe I'm a doctor now, and I evaluate myself to be happy. That violates the second criteria, because the values and concerns that inform the assessments is my parents' values and concerns. That's not my values and concerns. So for this to count, so for the happiness to count as authentic, the values that inform the evaluation has to be from myself. It can't be from others. And Sumner successfully connects well-being to what matters to us as individuals, connects to how we feel and think, connects well-being to what's going on inside us, what's going on internally for us. So it avoids the alienation problem. The second attitudinal theory I want to talk about is Tiberius. Okay, Again, I don't know how to pronounce. Maybe Tiberius. So Tiberius defines well-being in terms of individuals' values rather than their desires or their satisfaction with life. We are achieving or fulfilling our values constitutes a reason-generating ideal. So Tiberius has this central ideal in their theory. So Tiberius puts a lot of emphasis on this notion of valuing and on this idea of value. So Tiberius argues that valuing has two dimensions, so affective dimension and cognitive dimension. So for instance, if I value philosophy, there is this cognitive judgment I made about a philosophy being valuable, as well as I have this affective state, I have this emotional response that I feel like philosophy is valuable. So both dimensions have to be present for something to count as genuine valuing. And people might argue that, okay, how is value different from desire? So think about satisfaction of worthless desires. So maybe I just desire to throw 3 rocks downstairs. I just have that desire and that's satisfied, but I don't actually value that. And that, so if I adopt a value fulfillment theory, then I wouldn't consider that as contributing to my well-being, right? But for a desire fulfillment theory, they will count that action of throwing rocks downstairs as contributing to our well-being, because they just want satisfaction of any desires to be contribute to our well-being. That's what they believe. So there will be worthless desires which we don't actually value, and in such cases, value fulfillment theories and desire fulfillment theories come apart. So for value fulfillment theories argue that satisfaction of desire only contributes to well-being if it contributes to something the person values, like health, enjoyment, or fun. And another thing I want to highlight is that Tiberius' theory also emphasizes on the strong sense of fulfilling our values, or realizing or achieving our values, and then our ideal. Another theory, another subjective dependent theory is Freiblich's theory. So Freiblich defines well-being in terms of the fulfillment or realization of a person's values. The agential flourishing theory is pretty close to Tiberius' theory, right? Freiblich puts focus on this idea of realization of almost values, so those values that are most central to our identities. So here we have some kinds of priority in terms of our values now, and success in these values require some states of mind, some physical states, the accomplishment of certain activities, certain ways of life. Therefore, Ripley's achievement was that Ripley connected the fulfillment of values with certain states of mind and physical states and activities we have. So it establishes the intrinsic values of good physical and mental states as they make the successful realization of values more likely. So to establish this, Ripley connected the good physical and mental states with the value fulfillment. And it now has more theoretical virtue, because if you wanted to adopt a attitudinal theory, a value fulfillment theory, while believing that good physical and mental states have intrinsic values, now you can do this with Veblen's theory. So it just allows your theory to do more and have more theoretical virtue. So that's one achievement. So attitudinal theories have lots of advantage. So firstly, it's very inclusive. You can value a large range of things, activities, relationships, broad aims, ideals, principles, particular goals. You can value a lot of notions. You can value pleasure, you can value health, you can value virtues. Basically, it just allows you to do a lot more with your theories, because you can just use value to explain a lot of scenarios and cases, and you don't lose your explanatory power in most scenarios and cases, since you can always use this concept of value to form a coherent story. And also, it's just resonates very well with the psychological research, this whole theory, this whole group of theories. So if you're someone who is committed to or is hoping to kind of remain compatible with some of the psychological theories, or if you wanted to adopt some of that theories and views, then attitudinal theories allow you to do that as well. So attitudinal theories, as a theory, it just allows you to do a lot with your theories, and you can do pretty well with a lot of scenarios and cases where you don't lose your explanatory power, analytical power, and you don't raise counterintuitive examples, or it wouldn't render your theory irrelevant, and so on and so forth. And it's compatible with psychological research, so it just preserves this whole kind of theoretical resource which you can draw from. However, attitudinal theories have problems as well. So people have argued that attitudes can be defective. So by defective, I think we're talking about when we appeal to attitudes, when we use attitudes to analyze cases, or when we use attitudes as central notions which your whole well-being theories rest on. Sometimes they are very likely to raise technical complexities, counterintuitive results, things we have to resolve. Recall those subjective theories like desire fulfillment theories and hedonism. So when we talk about attitudes, when we appeal to attitudes, a lot of problems can arise. So in response, those three philosophers have tried to apply actual restrictions or theoretical settings to resolve these problems. So Sumner appeals to authentic requirements of happiness, and Tiberius appeals to the notion of valuable life, and argues that we do not need to specify the precise contours of this ideal in order to apply the value fulfillment theory. Ripley appeals to an ideal that can be used to criticize current values, and the ideal talks about a paradigm case of someone who successfully and sustainably achieves her values. So I think what they are all doing here are trying to give some extra restrictions to their theories, or settings to their theories, that allows their theories to be more stable, so that it doesn't raise technical complexities, it doesn't raise paradoxes or counterintuitive results. It just allows their theories to perform more stable, with more stability, and with more theoretical virtue. Another type of subject-dependent theory are the whole self theories, where Hebron argues that well-being is constitutes self-fulfillment, and Hebron argues that sentiment and reason have shared governance. To be happy is roughly for one's emotional condition to be broadly positive, with only minor negatives embodying a sense of psychic affirmation. So sentiment and reason both have important places here. And this includes, along with positive emotions, there have to be longer term moods as well as emotional dispositions. So here is a focus on kind of positive moods. And we would be in a robust emotional condition that affects a person's response to life. Having peace of mind, making her more interested and actively engaged in life, and predisposing her to feel more positive emotions. So here we're talking about this kind of positive emotional condition rate. So Hebron's theory rests a lot on the idea of fulfilling oneself and using sentiment and reason to be in this positive emotional condition that's not just about pleasure in that second, but also about a lot of things like peace of mind, being interested in life, actively engaged in life, having a state of being in more positive emotions in the future. This kind of robust emotional condition, that's what's central to Hebron's well-being theory. So for Hebron, a lot of that theory rests on fulfilling ourselves and coming into this robust emotional state or condition. And a lot of theoretical work is done by the proposing of this robust emotional condition. So the theory very much rests on that. And here is another whole self theory I want to talk about that's called developmentalism by Crott. So Crott argues what is good for us is to flourish, and humans, along with all living beings, flourish when they develop and fully utilize the potentialities, capacities, and faculties that under favorable conditions they naturally have at an early stage of their existence. So Crott argues that as humans, we all just naturally have a range of capacities we have from when we are pretty young, from our pretty early stages of our lives. And well-being just constitutes developing those capacities and kind of and thus flourish. And as you can see, Crott and Hebron's theories just are more focused on our whole lives. Just it is more focused on the evaluation of our lives as wholes. And it just talks about our well-being in our lives and our journey of seeking well-being on this more general, more macro perspective. Although Crott and Hebron's theories are a bit different as well, so Crott's theory focuses more on the whole species of human level. It falls and bases a lot on this idea of what human nature is like. So Crott argues that as humans, in our nature, we naturally have those capacities and faculties, and we naturally are just gonna develop them. And it's within our human nature that if we develop them, we would flourish, we would have well-being. So Crott is talking about us in this even more macro kind of perspective, that we are talking about this whole species of human level. We're talking about what human is like. We're talking about human nature. However, Hebron is more focused on individuals and more focused on the fulfilling of individuals and the kind of the states, the journeys of individuals. So here is this different as well. But even so, Crott and Hebron still are pretty similar in the way they focus on how we should evaluate the whole lives and journeys of seeking well-beings we have. That's all for the subject dependence theories. I hope you've enjoyed this lecture. I'm really curious about your experiences reading in the textbook chapter, how did you feel? How did you respond to those readings? What are your initial intuitions? How do you think those theories are relevant to you? So I'm very curious about your thoughts, and I hope I could talk to you guys more and see more of your thoughts in the discussion spaces. So thank you so much, and see you in the next lecture. So that will be on disability, health, and well-being.